everyone. This is Yoke van Dam, and I'm very excited to have with me here Thomas Ramstad, all the way from Norway. And today we're going to be chatting about personal brand and the impacts of personal brand in your career and the impact on your business, especially for corporates and executives. Welcome, Thomas.
Hello, Yoki. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I've been noticing you've been doing a lot on your personal brand. I just saw, I think this morning you did a beautiful post on LinkedIn and it's all branded with your name and it's like slides that you can slide through. And I saw some articles and you're sharing posts. Has that been a core focus of yours lately?
Yeah, I think it is important to actually show people what I believe in and what I care about, and actually share some knowledge and insightfulness about things. And yes, I have been working on that lately and stepping up a few notches. And I think it is important for other people to get to know me more.
Definitely. And I saw you're saying it's showing what you care about. So I was very thrilled when, considering it's going to be International Women's Day on Friday, that you
Yes.
spoke about women and, how to be more inclusive in the world of work. So that showed
Yes.
me a core value of yours. And being a man, I was like, go Thomas.
Yeah. I'm getting older, and
I wouldn't say.
aren't we all? And back in when I was growing up, back in the 70s, I was actually joining. My mother was very into the feministic organization, and I was joining a lot of the marches and protest marches every 8th of March for many years. But a lot of people, of course, they don't know that because I don't have any pictures. That you just have to take my word for it, and that is what a personal brand is about, because it is about how I want other people to look at me, and how I want other people to perceive me. And I can't show pictures, so what I do is I try to sort of make a point out of facts and figures and things I really care about. And for example, the glass ceiling carousel is one thing, and sort of breaking down some myths, showing people some real facts as well, make people aware of those. Yes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I would love to use stories of those marches and things that happened. So I would want to encourage you to maybe write a little story about some of those marches. Maybe you could do that on Friday.
Yeah.
Specifically, time traveling, going back to the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. And sometimes when you look back at how far we've come, we actually have appreciation to see everything might not be on par yet, but how much has already happened, just to have gratitude for that. And that's amazing to hear. So you were touching on personal brand and you were saying you don't have pictures of that, but pictures could be used as well in personal brand. And then you're saying facts and figures and using graphs. So how how would you describe a personal brand? Like, where did you hear about it for the
Yeah,
first time? I mean,
yeah,
oh, I'll share my story too.
yeah, it's quite interesting, Yoki, because not many years ago, and definitely not decades ago, people were talking about personal brand. But what people were talking about is reputation. So reputation is something that, how people look at you. It's your first impression, it's your tone of voice, how you communicate. But so it's how people actually people's view on you. But a personal brand, it's like the opposite way. It's the way you want people to perceive you, how you want to, what sort of view you want people to have on you. And I think that's a very important distinction. And you sort of switched point of view on the perspective on you. So what do you think, Yoki?
I love what you're saying. It sounds like a personal brand is more proactive and strategic because you are deciding this is the reputation I want, whether it's online or in person or when I'm not in the room, what I want people to say about me. Where the reputation is just that's out of your hands, while you can free your personal brand, probably influence your reputation over a
Yeah,
period of time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for example, it's about telling your stories, for example, stories that people don't know, because you're full of stories. I mean, everything about you is actually a story, a history, your story. Now is just, just this second. Everything else is history. You don't know about the future. And you can actually write your narrative and you can present your narrative and you can tell stories that might be interesting, but you have to select your stories to build your personal brand and how you want people to perceive you. So I think it's really, really important to, it's like the proof of the pudding. It's like, you want, if you say yes, I like to take care of people, then if you show pitches and you write stories and you include other people, then you actually, people believe you. Yes, it's one of your core values to actually take care of people. Then they
So
believe you.
So I want to share two stories with you. And the one was
Yeah.
triggered by what you were saying, show people the evidence through the stories and the
Yes.
pictures. So many years ago, I was unsatisfied in my career. I was in sales and I had this desire to get into public relations. And this PR person said to me, whatever you do, get photos. She said, if you're doing a training at your own office, give your
Mm.
cell phone to someone to get photos wherever you go. If you are writing an article for a newspaper, get that as evidence and build up almost like a portfolio of these little case studies of yourself. And what I
Mm.
didn't realize is for years and years and years, I learned that from her. And now people always say to me, how do you always have evidence of what you've done? But it was actually installed in my mind many years
Mm.
ago to do that.
Mm.
So where I heard the first about personal brand, there's this guy, Timothy Webster, and he actually spoke at a Toastmasters conference. And he got us to do this exercise where he said we need to draw two circles. And in the first one, you write, what are words, 10 words to describe yourself, but like the positive things, your strengths, because inside we know what we're really good at, but it's very hard for other people to necessarily see it. And then in the
Mm.
other circle, you actually write, what are words that other people use to describe you? And
Mm.
then in the third circle, you say, what are words that you would want them? That's like the design, what you want them to describe you as.
Mm.
And then we did various exercises to actually see what are the words that people are saying to us. So, friends, family, colleagues, past teachers, whoever, that are negative. And what would we rather want them to say? So, I did this exercise at that time, and I realized, and I actually sent messages to 5 friends, 5 colleagues, to 5 family members to get those one word answers. And a lot of them said to me that I was always late. So time management wasn't a good skill of mine. And they were joking about it. So people would say, oh, you're okay, you're always late for your own birthday, you're the last one to arrive, you'll be
Mm.
late for your own funeral and stuff like that. And I thought it was a joke. And then I realized it was very detrimental for me in business.
Mm.
So I did a time management course and I realized the reason why I was late is I found value in sales in preparation. So it
Mm.
spent 3 hours in proposals, research, all of this documentation. And then I didn't find value in driving. And then I
Mm.
didn't actually budget the time to drive. And then I would actually miss the appointment and it would have been a complete waste of time.
Mm.
So I realized in order for them to say I'm professional, I needed to change that behavior and change my psychology of driving and actually force myself to take the time to drive there. And
Yeah.
now people say to me, oh, Yoke's going to be there. We better go early. So
Yeah,
completely changed the narrative, but it
yeah,
was a lot of effort. So for me, it was all about what do I want them to say about me and what actions will actually prove it. But I think
yeah,
the online reputation is very much the, like you say, the stories you share, the stats you share, the case studies you share.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because
And I
it
mean,
is,
with you, I met you through the Sherry Blair Foundation how many years ago?
yeah,
And we had all of those, like you said, boxing matches where we were talking
yes,
about sales and reputation and business. And, through the patterns of behavior, because we were always arriving, doing the effort, it creates a certain reputation. And now here we
yes, of
are, how
course.
many years later, and we still have a strong relationship.
Yeah,
So, and that's for someone that you don't know on the other side of the world.
that's
So,
true. That's true. It's quite strange when we look back, and we, of course, we had to. We started off with zero, and we had to get to know each other. And a personal brand is about getting to know somebody that you actually don't know. And I've been working, in IT consultancy for a lot of years, and I've shared a lot of stories with you as well. And what is really, really important for IT professionals is actually to still continue to grow and develop academically. Challenge each
yes.
other and share stories and difficulties and sort of giveaways from projects and things like that. But if you if I tell a clients or prospective, employees that, yeah, we do that. We do that once a month. We share stories, we get together and challenge each other. We talk about cases, and people say, yeah, yeah, but where is the evidence? What do you actually do? And what I started doing is exactly what you did. I took photos,
I saw
and
those on your
yeah,
Instagram. I did.
yes, I shared them on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I wrote a few words about what we were doing, and this was actually something that we did every month, and that we had a social event afterwards, sometimes before. And the whole point is that we actually show people that we do it, and not only that we do it, but we do it regularly. Like we said we were doing it once a month, and we do it once a month. And we also show the people in the company, we show that they have a good time, and people get to know them as well. So it evidence, and we'll be building personal brands. So it's a great thing.
So
Yes.
personal brand is also important internally. Like I was saying last year, I told you I was doing this leadership development work in Dubai, and it was interesting. We often spoke about self-promotion. So if you're doing certain projects in the business, you need to share it back across departments. And I was even saying to another leadership coaching client of mine, the end of last year, I was like, you now need to go and present back to your directors on what you've learned and how much you've grown, because they've invested money in your team and in your coaching. And if you're not actually going to show, like you're saying, the evidence on what's happened, they're never going to reinvest money in your team again. So it's kind of like a knock-on effect. It doesn't have to sound like bragging. It's purely showing the results
Yep.
of their investment, but it's
Yes.
also for her as a leader. I said to her, you can actually portray your team in a positive way and show their growth. So it's more like
Yep.
shining the light on your team, but it can also highlight your growth as a leader. So in the same
Yep.
way as we need to, have those personal development plans and those KPI discussions with management, when you're doing that and you're actually managing your personal brand in the business, and even if you're optimizing your LinkedIn or newsletters or whatever it might be, then you have evidence that you can bring into that meeting to say, this is
Yeah.
where we were innovative, this is the results we had. So you're actually kind of capturing the evidence as you go. Because what
Yeah.
they did at Dubai at that company, National Bonds, is they actually have internal newsletters and like an internal social media. So they asked me to forward all the photos to them so they would upload it on there. So it was creating momentum while the course was happening, where the other departments also know and they're also getting excited for their 2 days of training that's coming up. So Thomas, I shared something interesting with you. There was this research done by brand builders in 2022, and we'll link in the
Yep.
comments if you guys want to go download. So interesting. You can go download all the research or just a few of the infographics. But I thought the stats were so interesting. And it says that having a strong personal brand leads to more trust, more sales, more referrals, and more loyalty. Have you personally seen people having a personal brand that have had a discussion impact on you hiring someone or using a specific supplier for business to business transactions? Has personal brand ever impacted that?
Yeah, for one thing, there is that I'll talk about employing people first,
Mm.
because what we did was that we actually tried to build a personal brand for each individual, and again for the organization. Is a sort of personal brand for the organization. And I'll mention a couple of things, when it comes to social media and LinkedIn and Instagram. It's because people think that they measure their success in likes or comments or whatever. But a lot of people, they see your post and they do nothing,
They call it like
So
passive. There's a term for it. I don't know what the term is, but I actually saw it the other day where exactly they don't even show or acknowledge
no,
anything, but they do
no.
enjoy it. Funny
Yeah, they
enough.
do enjoy it. And
The
when I
silent
talk to people,
community, the silent
it's yeah,
community, or something like
yeah.
that. Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, they cheer you and they see what you do, but they don't do anything.
Ugh.
And I talk to some people. I talk to, for example, a person that we actually want to employ, and and he said that, yeah, I see what you do. I see, or you have academic days and you do it, every month, and that's really exciting. I see that you, because what I like to do is as well is walk in talks, and a lot of people say that they do walk in talks, but they don't do them. So I did like you. I took pictures and I posted it on Instagram. A lot of them were not very pretty. A lot of them were not like, 5-star Instagram, and we had, a photographer taking photos. So some of them were really, nasty. But anyway, and the sun and the light and everything, the wind, and yeah,
But it's authentic and it's
it
true.
is
You know
authentic.
what I
And we
mean?
were,
It's
we
not a
were,
stock
yeah.
photo.
Exactly, and we were outside. It was cold. It was windy. But we were there. We were there. And people actually saw that we were taking care of people. We were doing things. So we were actually doing what we were saying, and because that was part of us building culture, and doing things based on values, our values. And people realize that this is not just something they say, it's something they do as well. And customers also, they mention that, yeah, we see that you have these social events, we see that you have these academic days, and that's good for us. It's really good for us, because then you bring something back, you bring something to the table in these projects that is good. And what you, of course, really want to do is that when you build a brand for your company, a sort of personal brand for the company or personal brand for you and your employees, is that you want your customers, or customers that you don't yet have, to actually call you, and to build a personal brand and actually do a bit of marketing and building, your name and everything on either LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever. And you want to bring customers to you. You want to bring employees to actually want to work for you, and your customers to work with you. Customers that you don't know of, to actually make the call. So yes,
That's
it has an
amazing.
effect.
So I've seen how I've managed to build relationships with people on the other side of the world, never meeting them in real life, only online. But what's happened is the sales cycle gets shorter. Because in the past, you would go and you would actually, have to have so many meetings for people to get to know you, to get to know you. But if they've already engaged with your content, by the time they get to know you, they feel like they're ready to buy. So I think
Yeah.
that's really, and that's even with you were creating that culture of the business where you didn't actually have to get them to walk around your offices, attend a
No.
culture day. They saw all of those snippets and they saw it many times. So
Yes.
they were like, this is not just a once off thing. This is happening. When I get there, I will actually sit there in that room with those people.
Yeah.
And that's
Because
really what
it's
created trust.
yes, because as you said, you use a lot of, for example, you have sort of instruments, you have tone of voice, you have colors,
Colors,
you have
yeah.
you have videos. I mean, you do a lot of videos, and people can actually see you in action, and it is like people get to know you. And it lowers the threshold of one is actually getting in touch with you because they know what you look like and they feel that they know you. And as you said, it sort of shortens the sales cycle and it actually makes it easier for people to approach you. So I totally agree.
There was one stat that was quite interesting for me. So there's 2% of older millennials. I'm in that group because I'm almost Gen X. So I, they trust the company more if they feel they know or they can recognize the executives.
Mm, mm.
So do you think it's important for like the GM, the CEO, the middle management, even the junior management to build their personal brands?
Yes, I think so because I'm part of Generation X. I'm not the boomers, the just after the Second World War. So earlier, if we go down memory lane a couple of decades, for people in the old days, it was sufficient, for me to say that okay, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm a construction engineer, I'm a teacher. And instantly you would sort of get a picture in your head, and I might show my diploma, and I might share a photo of me shaking hands with a happy customer. And you would say, wow, yeah, it is sufficient. You would trust me. But things have changed because, of course, people have realized after some years that you can't just trust people because they have a diploma. You can't just trust people because they say that they are this and this and this, and they do this and this and this. And so they are looking for evidence. And they also, that's one thing. And the other thing is that they want to resonate with people that have the same values. They want to work with people that have the same values because we all value based and our actions are value based. Our culture is value based. And we want to work with people that believe in the same thing that we do, and we want to work with people that match some of the values that we have. For example, if you want to change the environment or you want to make a difference for kids in school, you can't, for example, if you have a teacher. Yes, I want to be a teacher. And yes, why do you want to be a teacher? I don't know, okay, would you want to make a difference for the kids? Nah. Would you want to do you want to teach people? Nah. Do you want to make a difference that you actually bring up help people grow? Nah. It's so it doesn't resonate at all, and you shouldn't probably be a teacher. So yes, I think it's really important for CXO and even people in the whole organization to actually build personal brands and show what they do and more of who they are.
So in a way, they possibly need to teach people how to do that and, guide them through what is allowed, what is not allowed. Because this morning, I was asking someone to paste a LinkedIn testimonial that she wrote me on my Google page. So her words, and she said a company have put rules in place where they're not allowed to write reviews.
mm, mm,
anymore. So some
mm.
companies are literally stopping people from being themselves and being able to actually engage in the world. And what would you say, like, would be best practice, on a if you had a big team and you had to guide them in terms of the personal brand thing, what would the guidelines look like?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's really important to be truthful in the sense that you have to be able to stand firm on what you publish. If you don't feel comfortable publishing a picture or tell a story or anything, don't do it. That's the most important thing. And I think it's a bit sad, the story that you tell, that it's okay if for example they can't write a referral, for example, on your page. That's okay. But I think it's not right to, for example, a personal LinkedIn page or profile, that they can't say that, I worked with Yoke and we had a great time. Here is us in a meeting, because it is personal. Yes, it is in a professional setting, but I think it shows actually that she's working there. It shows that she's doing fun stuff, and she's doing fun stuff with you. And let me tell you about it. And I think that's not the right way to do it, because it shows other people that probably might want to work there what you're doing. It shows clients what you're doing. It shows sort of everyday life at work. So I think people should reconsider their their social media strategy, if that is their way of doing it. Yeah.
At one of the companies I worked with, they were actually quite smart. So they actually taught us some social media basics from the social media brand manager. And what their strategy was, when they shared educational content, whether it was on LinkedIn or Facebook, they would actually share an email with the links and encourage us to engage or share. And we would actually share from their LinkedIn or Facebook page onto our own. And
Mm.
what you tend to find is people will actually see your company related posts, even on a person's profile, much more
Mm.
than on the
Mm.
company page. So even in
Yeah.
that regard, it created a lot more engagement. But then you could add your
Yeah.
own 2 cents to it, or do
Yeah.
something within a certain template or story, and maybe they could they could actually review some of the content if they were scared of it. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
actually see if they're happy with what people are doing, instead of just outright saying they're not allowed to do
Mm.
it. Yeah.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on testimonials? Should companies be seeking testimonials, and even on their own? Like, let's say on LinkedIn, there's the option to write testimonials. Have you ever looked at someone's testimonials before hiring them or using their services, or rate their reviews on Google?
Yeah, both yes and no, because we didn't use testimonials on social media. What we did that is that we looked at connections, of
Okay.
course. Yeah. Who they know, and if we know any of those people, they know. And the other
Ah,
thing is,
that's
which
interesting.
is,
Who's in their
yeah, and
network? Yeah.
yeah, and the other thing is that since we were a consultant company, it's really really important for us to sort of know how they behave and how they actually add value for their clients and in the project and their co-workers in the project. So we were really interested in sort of testimonials and referrals, but we were talking to people. So it's the same context where we're talking, but when we sort of bring that to into LinkedIn and testimonials and referrals and for example your webpage, it's the same concept, you know. So I think it is really really important to actually look at connections and try to get some referrals, try to get some testimonials and engage with people that comment your posts or whatever. So it's culture based as well, I think. Some cultures They don't want to put testimonials or referrals on LinkedIn or on the other social media. They want to do it by mouth, and they think it's a bit show off. So I think it's be adaptable, and you can get testimonials and referrals in many ways. So I don't know. What's your point of view on this one?
I'll get to that in a moment, but I love what you said that it's culture based and that you could almost see who their connections are and engage with those people. It actually allows you could even send inbox messages to the people they know and say, what do you think of this person? Would you mind having
Yeah,
a Zoom interview with us
yeah,
to act
yeah.
as a reference? So you could kind of like cross check if, if they are a legitimate person.
Yep.
So in that regard, it gives you that. And maybe the testimonial is not so much in their control because you're actually reaching into their network, and
Mhm.
you're actually analyzing their behavior on
Yep.
social media to see what is their persona and that like. Testimonials, it's weird, Thomas. I find that clients that in my business, clients that give me consistent business very rarely ever give me a testimonial. Clients that have attended my free events always write me a testimonial. So the people that are actually spending the money, they don't often go about putting that effort in taking your business
Mhm.
further, but you can
Mhm.
build your own case study and stories through the actionable work that you've done with them.
Mhm.
And then I do like feedback forms and that in the room. So in that regard, it doesn't immediately go on your platform. But what I then do is I mine their feedback, what they fill in, whether it's on pen or Google Forms or whatever format. And then I build case studies or I build like social media posts, testimonials using their words with their permission.
Mhm.
So I've just
Mhm.
seen it's very hard to get a person to, from their own heart, just write you something. Some
Yep.
people do, but when you're actually doing actual work with people, get them to, whether it's pen and paper and you're actually asking them, what was the experience like? Ask them pointed questions. And that's what I've recently done after a team intervention and then a leadership coaching. I sent a feedback form to fill in for the lady and said to her, what was the team intervention like? What did you see changes in your team? Where were
Mhm.
you at the beginning of the coaching journey? Where are you at now? How did it
Mhm.
help you? Whatever. And then I realized she was never going to write me something on my platforms. So I
Mhm.
summarized the form and sent it to her and asked her, is she okay with this? Does she want to rewrite it? And I
Mhm.
put that on my website with a name. And then
Mhm.
I asked her if she wouldn't mind just posting it in this link, which she then did. So I think
Mhm.
people are very time scarce. And if it's rather through a conversation that you actually
Mhm.
making the notes and you write it and they can then edit it, that's what a lot of people do. And these
Yeah.
days, people also just do video recordings. So at the end of a consultation process or whatever, have your cell phone and microphone there and interview the people, ask them a few quick pointed questions and record that. They'll
Yeah.
rather do that than write you something. So I
Yeah.
think it's
I,
a time
I,
thing.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and that's why we early on we talked about evidence, photos and videos, and I think it's a good idea to actually be prepared and be in the moment, and have a couple of questions and just like, what's your view on this session, and just capture it and just publish it, of course, with their permission. But yes, I think it's probably sort of a change there as well. Just every session you have, whether it's a course or some meeting or whatever, just capture the moment and share it, because it's a bit different. People don't mind asking, answering questions while they're there. but afterwards it's just like gone and you probably lost them. So be in the moment.
Sometimes,
Yes,
sometimes you
totally.
need to do it in a fun way. So, like in a gamification. So, if you do polls like Slido, I often do that.
Yeah.
So, I actually ask the feedback questions and it goes up on the screen. And then I publish it on social media or in an article afterwards. So, there's word
Mhm.
clouds. So,
Mhm.
it's more a fun way to grab it than this long-winded, horrible feedback form that
Mhm.
they have to fill in, you know, so
Mhm.
gamifying it. And when I was in Dubai last year, so many times I was blown away everywhere you go. So whether you're in the hotel or you're in a cab or you're at a restaurant, they always ask you for a Google review. So they have a QR code, so they make it easy.
Yeah.
So even in the taxi, there was a QR code, huge, printed on the seat in front of me. It had this fabric cover and it said, please rate us. And I was actually inspired to be like, make it easier for people to rate
Yeah.
you. So I
Yeah.
recently went and I had to reattach the number plates on my car. And the place wouldn't want me to pay. And I felt so bad. So I wanted to give back to them. I went and wrote them a review. And then I went and I created a QR code for them and said to them, because it's a printing company, just print a sticker and slap it on the desk so that
Mhm.
when people are here, they can just quickly write a review after they've done their
Mhm.
payment, you
Mhm.
know? So can we make it as easy as possible for people to get through to our pages, make it
Yeah.
frictionless as possible? So we're
Yes.
reaching the end. If you had to give advice to leaders in business, what would your advice be from a personal brand point of view?
Yeah, I think it's important to show what you do. You don't have to tell your sort of your inner thinking. It's not about that. It's make it simple. And when you're out there, let's say you're visiting clients, you going to a trade fair, you going to a conference, you're visiting a country, an office in a different country or whatever. Take a photo. It might not only be yourself and the logo or whatever, or being on this. It's like a holiday picture, and just tell people why you're there. Just a short story, and that's it. You telling a bit about yourself, you're telling a bit about your company, and you tell that you're out there taking care of people, traveling around, and building your personal brand is not as difficult as it sounds. It's just tell people what you do. It's a beginning, and it's very, very easy to do that. So start small and keep it simple. Stupid.
And I'll add my 5 cents to that. In that research, it showed that older millennials liked 50% educational content,
Mm,
41% inspirational content, and 62% they asked, is this relevant to me? So if
mm,
you're posting anything, so even if you're posting about your holiday picture or whatever, try to
mm.
put a message to it that could be aligned to your core values to show who you are, that can either educate them about something or inspire them. So if it can
Yes.
do any of those things, and that's what I often do, even if I'm posting about the pizza we've made or the fish we've fried or whatever,
Mm,
there's a
mm,
message about customer experience in there or coaching or leadership. So just tie whatever you're at back to your core values
yeah.
or to something aligned to your business or your role or the type of leader that you are, so that when people see it and they say, what's in it for me? They'll probably
Mm,
ask like, so what? So what? Why are you posting this? If you can
mm,
answer that question and it can be helpful to them to learn something about you or to be inspired or to be educated in some way,
mm.
they will really enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for example, if you're a leader and you go to, for example, a trade fair, you could just take a picture and say, okay, why are you there? You know, what do you try to achieve? What do you hope for being your takeaway? And sort of why are you there when it comes to your company? And that's it. it doesn't have to be long. So it's, as you said, it could be very simple. So don't make it more complicated than it is.
Last week, I met a guy from the Netherlands, Chris Fennings, and he was in South Africa for 2 weeks on a book tour. And before he came, I actually met the two South African gentlemen, one from Joburg and one from Cape Town. And I was trying to give them sales ideas, marketing ideas to make this tour successful. And what they did really well is every single day when he was on the tour starting in Cape Town, they were posting and I was following a journey. So from the time the guy was fetching him from the airport with the book banner at midnight with his family, and then, every day they would do a little summary of the 4 events they had, the whole moments you see behind the scenes. And I was messaging them and saying, I'm really enjoying the updates. And because they shared it, it created so much momentum that by the time they went to Pretoria, the events had had so many sales because they were doing the story and the behind the scenes. So in that way, you can actually create a lot of momentum just showing behind the scenes what you're busy with, and people can see, oh, wow, that's what you do. I'm also a company like that, like those people that you're serving, we would also want those services. So a really big knock-on effect. And what I really enjoyed is they did a podcast interview, but a video one afterwards where they were reflecting on the tour and reflecting on what went well, what didn't, their highs, their lows, their learnings. And they also mentioned the events that I was at, and I could see, because I've known them, how much growth actually happened in those 2 weeks. So people love behind the scenes. Well, thank you so much, Thomas. So in summary, you say keep it simple, stupid. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Thank you. Okay.
Just do it. Thank you so much for today. It was very
Thank
valuable.
you.